morning. It's good to be back. I figured we'd do something a little bit different today. What I'm going to do is I'm going to teach tech stuff until I run out of, either I'm done or run out of time, instead of starting with career prep stuff and starting tech until I run out of time. So I'm going to go straight into tech. We're going to talk about nested CRUD today. So first, probably the first hour, what we'll do is we'll go over what CRUD is. And I'm not going to copy paste because I saw a bunch of people say they don't like the copy paste. So we're going to just copy paste more slowly. Just me just typing stuff out, and I'll explain everything as we go along. But today we're going to cover a concept called nested CRUD. And before we do that, you can tell me what CRUD stands for. You can just call it out. I don't really care. Create, read, update, destroy. Okay, so tell me, like, so we can memorize the acronym, which is great. What does create, read, update, destroy mean?
So you without using the words that are already in there,
Sure.
because you create something new, so you develop new or add new data. Read the data that already exists.
Yep.
Change the data that exists to something new.
Okay.
Get rid of the new.
That's correct. So it's basically a web application that you're going to create. So all we're doing in this particular class is we're creating web applications. So stuff that you can see on the web. So as long as you're able to create something, read something, update something, and destroy something, that becomes a CRUD app. I challenge you to think of one app on the internet that's not a CRUD app. Not a website, not like a mom and pop shop where I go and I like a mom and pop like website where it's like John Parents Hardware 123. Like that just shows like store hours and things like that. That's a web page. It's not a web app because I don't interface with it. But think of every single app that you use on a daily basis. Every single one is a CRUD, except for Twitter, which doesn't have update.
Yeah.
But that's a choice that they made. You can update on the back end. They just choose to not let you have that. But think about Amazon. You can create, read, update, destroy users. You can create, read, update, destroy products. If I'm selling this WeWork mug, I create this product. I can sell it for $19.99. I can also read it so someone can go on the website and see this particular product. We can update it in the case that it gets really cheap to produce it. We can lower the price for people. We can destroy it if it doesn't sell very well. So almost everything that you do on the web is create, read, update, destroy. After 6 years in working in the industry, as long as you memorize basic CRUD, it'll get you through a lot. And that's pretty much still what I'm doing today, with 95% of the stuff being read and create. Update is less so, and then delete is very rarely. Can you tell me why people don't like to delete things from their servers?
Data is valuable.
Data is extraordinarily valuable. So what they will do oftentimes is when you say delete my account, they won't delete it. They'll just have like a field on their database that says like is active, and they'll just turn that to false. They still want to hold on to your data because it's very valuable for them to keep. So we're going to be talking about CRUD during this first hour, but I wanted to show you a little bit about what I mean by nested CRUD. So when we go to like a place like CarMax.com, they follow something called RESTful APIs. Now, this is for a software engineer in Richmond. If you're interested in working for CarMax, they use Siege. Numbers? No, this is C. I don't know what that is because I don't use .NET. They're using JavaScript, CSS, and API, but they're doing something called RESTful APIs. And what that means is your routes on the very top, your URLs follow a very specific pattern so that it's easy to follow and that you know what's going on. If I go to CarMax and I say I want to shop for a car, it goes to /cars. And let's say I'm looking specifically for a sedan. You'll notice it goes into /cars/sedans. It makes sense. So when I give the URL to somebody, it follows a very specific pattern. So we know immediately based off this, there's a cars table in their database, and there's a sedans like sub column within there. And let's say I just want to look for a Acura, and what you'll notice is it keeps adding on to the back over here, so that you know at all times based off of the URL what particular resource you're looking for in the database. You're looking for cars, specifically nested underneath that, you're looking for sedans. Specifically nested underneath that, you're looking for an Acura. And then I'm looking for a body style of I don't know anything about Acuras. I'm looking for a TLX. And what you'll notice, it follows a very specific naming pattern where it goes /cars/sedans/Acura/TLX. So I'm starting out with the resource. These are all like basically columns or tables inside of the database. I start with cars. I know that there's definitely a cars table in the database. There's definitely a sedans, some sort of either a column or a table within there. There's going to be Acura. There's going to be a TLX within it. So this is called RESTful routing patterns, and we're going to be seeing this very soon. So we're going to go through the typical setup of our Django CRUD app, and today we're going to be creating, again, all the stuff can be found over here. Today we're going to be creating a cohorts and students app. So I've taught, starting from Bravo until now, so that's 11 letters, and each one of those has a particular number of students. So what we're going to do is we're going to create some old cohorts, and we're going to take a bunch of students and we're going to put them inside those cohorts so that they're just associated with those particular cohorts. And then we're going to use some Python scripts to basically make this process a lot faster because it's otherwise it's a little bit too slow. So first things first, I want to create my project. And it's the same setup that I've always had. I'm going to first change to my desktop, mostly because for me, I like to see things. So I'm going to go inside my desktop, and you can see I changed directory to desktop. And then now I'm in my desktop, I'm going to make a directory called nested CRUD example. And then I'm going to cd into nested CRUD example. The semicolon in the middle just allows me to do two things on one line. So I both made the directory and I changed into it. Now, if I list this out, there's nothing in there. I'm just going to open this whole thing inside of VS Code. And what you'll notice here on the left-hand side is that there's nothing inside of here, which makes sense for right now. From there, I'm going to create a virtual environment. But before I do, someone tell me what a virtual environment is and why it's useful.
Virtual environment is an environment within the operating system that is its own thing, and it's useful so that if you have different software applications with different versions, versions do not interfere with each other.
That's right. Remote, can you hear everything with this new microphone setup, or do I need to repeat everything?
We can hear everything.
You can hear everything? Perfect. All right. All right. So that's pretty much right. So a virtual environment is basically, think of your computer as, you ever see the movie Bubble Boy? It's way back when. So the premise of that movie was Bubble Boy had all these different types of autoimmune issues, and as a result, his parents wrapped him in like a giant bubble ball. So he would walk around in like essentially a giant bubble hamster ball to protect him from the world outside. And you can think of a Python virtual environment as a wrapper, kind of like a bubble wrapper, around portions of your computer. Now you got to think about this. Right now, you're just learning how to make Python, so no worries if you're just going to install Django like very much for your entire computer. However, I used to work for Groupon. I used to work for I worked for Venmo, and oftentimes what happens with these large product companies is that they start their project, they have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of time to build it, and then they grow very quickly, and then they never update it. And that's kind of what's happened with, I would say, every single large tech company. They're using Python 2 or Ruby 2 instead of Ruby 4. They're using Rails 2 instead of Rails. I think they're almost up to 6 now. They're using old versions of things, so you have old school, like the legacy code that you have to maintain, and new stuff that you need to write. So how do you protect your entire computer? Because like, if you install the newest version of Django, and then you're working on your company stuff, and your company stuff is super old, how do you know you're not going to blow up the new stuff or blow up the old stuff because of what you have? That's where the idea of a virtual environment comes from. It surrounds the app that I'm running with like kind of like protected bubble wrap, saying you can install whatever you want within here, and it won't affect the outside. So I'm going to start that up using Python-m, which stands for, I think, make. I'm going to make a virtual environment called virtual environment. You can name this second argument whatever you want. You can name it foo, and it'll just name your virtual environment. The Python convention is to actually call it VENV for virtual environment. From here, I want to activate it. So I've created this folder. There's a bunch of stuff underneath there that I don't understand even. So I'm just going to do source them, the name of the folder, bin, there's a script called activate. And what you'll notice is that before I had this command line right over here, and now I've got this virtual environment in parentheses at the very beginning. This means that I'm within the virtual environment and I can safely install whatever I want. It won't affect the rest of my computer. So I'm going to install Django. Hit install Django. You can feel free to install whatever you want as long as you see this virtual environment, you are safe. So it is installing Django. I have many versions of Django on my computer, but it doesn't matter because I got the virtual environment and it surrounds my project, so I'm not affecting the rest of my machine. All right, I'm going to clear this to get a little bit more space. And then from there, I'm going to run Django admin start project old cohorts. What you'll notice inside of Django and what you'll notice inside of many frameworks is that there's a lot of magic. And that's because the job of the people who create Django, who create Java's Spring framework and Ruby on Rails framework, and every single framework that we're going to be using is to take away all the extra mundane things that you're going to be doing. So you could create folders and hook things up, and remember when we did the HTTP server and how annoying that was? That's all built into Django. Someone else said, developers have better things to do with their time than to create projects from scratch. So this Django admin start project old cohort, this is the name of the project, but the Django admin start project hooks up a brand new project for you. So within that, let's hit this, and there's that old cohorts. Let me remove old cohorts. I forgot one important thing, which is okay. So I'm telling Django, there's a script called start project, and I'm going to name it old cohorts, and I'm going to put it exactly where I currently am. That's this old cohorts right over here. And it has all of this extra stuff just to get me started. So we have this concept in Django called projects and applications. A Django project can have many applications within it. So right now, I'm just going to be taking care of cohorts and students. Maybe down the road, for this nested CRUD example, maybe I want to be able to have an attendance application within this project. And you can kind of think of this as, think of Amazon. So if you think of Amazon as a giant Django project, there are many apps within that project because they have many different services, right? They have Audible, so they have to have an app just to look up digital books and all the things that go with digital books. They have a Amazon Prime Video, so that's another app probably within their, if they were using Django, like a very large Django app, because they take care of everything related to videos. They have the regular bookstore and all the online stores. They have a merchant portal. They have billing. They have shipping. They have all these different applications that all live underneath this one giant umbrella of Amazon as a project. And that's kind of what we've got here, even though we have one project with one application inside of it. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to get cohorts and students. This is going to be the name of our application setup. So I'm going to do Python manage.py. That's this file right over here when we ran Django admin start project old cohorts. I'm going to create something, start project instead of start app, called old cohorts. I do something stupid. Oh, oops. Yeah, yes, I did. That's in the wrong place. Cohorts and students. So we've got three folders within my nested CRUD example. We've got cohorts and students, which is the name of my application, old cohorts, which I believe is the name of the project, and the virtual environment. And we're still safely nestled within the virtual environment over here, so we don't have to worry about anything that we install is not going to blow anything up.
John,
so, yeah.
You created 2 projects.
I created, oh no, I did. All right. 1 second, sorry about that. Just gotta copy and paste now. All right, so Python start app cohorts students. So I've got this this application called old cohorts, but I've got an old project called old cohorts, and I've got an application called cohorts and students. All right, so remember at the project level, we've got old cohorts. And we could have, inside of here, we could have many applications, but we only have one right now. It's called cohorts and students. But these two are not talking to each other in any way. Even though they're in the same folder, old cohorts doesn't know that cohorts and student exists, and cohorts and students doesn't know that old cohorts exist. So we have to join them together. Inside of here, there's a settings.py. We're not doing too much inside of the application, sorry, inside the project. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down a little bit. There's an area that says installed applications, installed apps. All these things are built into Django. So things like sessions, messages, and admin, these are all built in. But something else I'm going to add is cohorts and students. This is telling, by adding this one line, line 40, what I'm doing is I'm telling old cohorts the project that this application exists, and I want to, whenever I load up this project, I want to also load up this app. All right, so we're going to spend most of our time inside of cohorts and students. We're going to start in this file called models.py. Models.py, we've done this, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. We're going to create some Django tables. And with that, let's talk about a cohort. If you think about your cohort, what are some characteristics of your cohort? Like if you had like all humans have a name, a height, a weight, like that's stuff that all humans have. What are some things that are unique to your cohort?
It has a name.
All right. So let's just pseudocode a little bit. So cohort, they have something called name, like a kilo. What else? As students, that's true. What else? Curriculum. Curriculum. That one stays the same. But it's like characteristics about the cohort. Yeah. Yeah. What's that? Branches of service. Dates. I'm just gonna start date and end date. I'm gonna stop there because that perfectly matches up with curriculum, and I'm not afraid to. All right, so we know that we're going to create a table inside the database called cohort. It's going to have a name, like a cohort name. It's going to have some students inside of it. So do we want to put that inside of the cohort or maybe a separate table? What do you think? Because I want to get all your names.
Have a separate table that'll have an attached to each cohort.
Okay, so you said I have a cohort. It has a name, a start and end date, and it has many students. So I might want to put that inside of a separate table. Okay, so I'm going to put a student. Each student has a name. Each student has a hometown, perhaps.
Probably in person or remote.
In person or remote, and then maybe a branch of service. Obviously, we can add more things to this. I think even just in our just in the example for today, we don't even have half of these things. So I'm just going to change this to first name, last name, and then it belongs to a cohort. I think this makes sense. We have a cohort, like Platoon started on January 6th, and then ends sometime in April, so next month, or pretty much next month now. And then each one of these cohorts is a student, which belongs to a cohort, has a first and last name, hometown, in-person or remote branch of service. Okay, that looks good. Do I want to go even further? No, I don't. Because I'm thinking to myself, branch of service, why would I want to type the same thing as like a string over and over again, right? Because we know that there are 5 branches of service. And so there are the same 5 branches of service. So why would I type in it takes more memory and more space to type in letters than it does in person. So if I know that the 5 branches of service are the Marine Corps, the Army, the Navy, National, we're not going into reserves. Why would I type that over and over again when I can just associate it with a number? But just for the sake of today, so I don't have to create a 3rd table and maybe get blown up because of it, let's just type it in. So all we're doing right now is we're trying to use Django to not create tables like using SQLite to create table, cohorts, columns, and stuff like that. It takes a little bit more time than I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out for right now. I'm going to just copy and paste, and we'll go over each thing as we copy and paste. So we've got a model. It's called Cohort. Each cohort has a cohort name. All right. And what I'm going to do is I'm inheriting Cohort from the Django DB models. What this is doing is because it's inheriting from this particular class that comes from Django, Django knows that it's going to go inside of the database. So I've got cohort name, and what the cohort name is going to be is it's just going to be a bunch of characters, and the max length is going to be 200. This is the same thing as saying varchar 200 inside of regular SQL. Same thing with start date and end date. I'm just putting them as character fields for right now because I don't really want to get into like actually creating them as dates, but you should be using these as dates in real life. And if you really want, I might bite myself in the foot for this, but Django model date field. Let's take a look. So date field. We use date field over here. It says a date followed by. Okay, for the sake of me not getting thrown off, let's just keep this as a character field for right now. All right, so we have the name, start date, and the end date, and I just copied and pasted this from the curriculum. Using that, we are going to create this student without copying and pasting from the curriculum. So I have class student. It's going to inherit from models.model. It's going to inherit from the models from Django DB, specifically the capital M. There's a capital M model in there somewhere. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a first name. Actually, let's figure out some shortcuts because this is annoying. I'm going to highlight this, press Command D a bunch of times. And I'm just going to belongs to a cohort. I don't know how to do this, so I'll figure that out later. First name's pretty easy. We know that's going to be a character field. Max length 100 characters for the first name. Max length 100 characters for the last name. Feel good about that? So hometown, same thing. Let's say it's 200 characters. In person or remote. That is
just the true false thing would be the remote or in person speaking.
Let's say in person. We'll just have that as a true false. Models. Let's take a look. So the good thing about VS Code is that a lot of this stuff is built in. Because I typed in models and on line 1 I imported from Django DB, I've got all the fields that are available to me. So what you'll notice is that this all says character field, character field, character field. Same thing over here. I'm going to type in, start with D-O-O. Looks like there's a Boolean field. So the only thing that's valid at this particular point is going to be a true or false. The majority of the students, actually it's 50-50 this time. I can't say one way or the other. All right, and then same thing over here with branch of service. It's going to be another character field. And we'll just make the max length 100. Does everyone feel comfortable with me creating these models so far? All right, so the last thing that we got to do is somehow this student belongs to a cohort, and we got to figure out how to do that. I don't know. So I'm going to do Django association foreign key. Let's take a look. Any-to-one relationship, one-to-one relationship, any-to-one. Let's just click on this one. All right, so to define a many-to-one relationship, use foreign key. All right, so it looks like we've got a reporter. This has reporters in first and last name and email, rate, and a reporter has an article which has a headline, a publisher date, and a foreign key. It seems exactly like what I need. An article belongs to a reporter, and a reporter has many articles. A cohort has many students, and a student belongs to one cohort. Though for the upcoming one, we do have one person per field. Not from this class, from an old class who wants to learn Python. So I'm just going to grab this whole line and copy paste because that's what developers do. And then we're going to modify it. So we've got a reporter. Let's go back. It says, hey, the reporter is on the article model. The reporter is the other class. So I'm saying that a article belongs to a reporter, okay? A student belongs to a cohort, and I'm going to create a foreign key relationship to this cohort up here. When I delete the cohort, I also want to delete the student. That's what this models.cascade is. So once you delete the cohort, it automatically deletes all the corresponding students. How do we feel? We created the cohort ourselves, we created the students ourselves, and we kind of joined them together. Great. Is there a database that works with this? Not right now. So right now, all we have is just a file. We've declared a cohort model, a student's model, which is just like the Pythonic representation of what it's going to look like inside the database. We have to actually get this code from our model file into an actual database. What's the process for that?
First, we got to determine, are we just going to use the SQLite default, or if we were going to make a Postgres database, and we'd make the migration and migrate it to that database.
That's correct. Yeah. So I don't know if there's a microphone right near you. So what we're going to do is we're just going to we're just going to use SQLite for right now. Later down the road for like actual production stuff, we obviously use something more heavy duty. SQLite is literally just a file. If you haven't realized, it's just a file that you read and write to using SQL. So it's not something that you can use at large scale. It has to be a Postgres database or some other heavy duty database. But for right now, since this is just learning CRUD and nested CRUD, we're just going to use SQLite database. The way that we get that in there is we are going to make some migrations. What you'll notice is the moment I started typing inside of models.py, this random folder here called migrations, because Django knows if you're adding a model, you're most likely going to add it to a database. Thus, I'm going to create a migrations folder for you. Let me clear. I'm going to run Python manage.py make migrations. Again, there's code underneath the hood here. I don't know what really happens. All I know is when I press enter, there is migration. Oh, God. Oh no.
Last underscore name.
Good catch. I typed in last space name rather than last underscore name, and column names cannot have spaces in them. It's a good catch. Let me clear one more time. Run the same make migrations. What you'll notice is that this file shows up 0001. And what you'll also notice is when you start dealing with this more and more, these numbers will increase and it will run in order of it'll run numerically. So if you think about way back when, think about Jeff Bezos in 1994, Jeff Bezos looked like this. I love this. Where's the Amazon? Start. All right, so this is Jeff Bezos in like in the 1990s. Amazon.com only sold one thing back in the 90s. Books. That's all it sold. So if you think about a very simple database for that, you have books, you have authors, you have orders, you have users, and maybe like a few handful of other tables, and that's it. However, Jeff Bezos no longer looks like this. He no longer has a horror film spray painted. Jeff Bezos looks like this before, and now is super yoked. During that time, many things have happened to Amazon. It no longer just sells books. It has all of these other businesses that we talked about earlier. So if you're a new Amazon engineer and you're starting on day one, you're not going to have like the entire database at your fingertips, like all on the first day. But if you wanted to build the entire application on your particular machine, just to develop stuff locally, you'd have all the migrations in order from 1 to whatever thousands that they have left. I got a chat. Let me take a look at what that is. Need nerd look to kind of true. So I created this migration using this Python manage.py make migrations, and you'll notice inside of here, it has a whole bunch of instructions for our computer to follow. We're going to create a model called Cohort with these particular fields, and I don't know what what any of this says, but we know that it created this migration for us using this models.py file. This particular point, we've got an empty SQLite database. I'm going to Python manage.py migrate. So the steps that we take are we create our models, we create our migrations, and then we migrate them into our database. As long as everything doesn't blow up, you're all set. Now I'm going to interact with this not using SQL anymore. I'm just going to use all Python stuff, but underneath the hood it does translate into SQL. So Python manage.py shell. So what Python manage.py shell does is it enters a Python shell, so I can still do stuff like 1+2, and like this is an interactive Python shell, but it also loads in my entire application. So I have access to my application within this shell. I want to create a script that will, let me do kilo platoon equals cohort. What did we say was in here? Cohort name, start and end date. So cohort name equals kilo platoon. I'm going to do start date 01/06/2020. What day did we end?
April 17th.
Oh, okay. No hesitation whatsoever. All right, so if this works, let's first import all of our models. So what I'm doing here is I'm saying from the cohort and students folder, there's a file called models, and inside of there are two classes. One of them is called cohort, one of them is student. I want to bring them into this shell right now. And from here, I'm going to see if there's anything inside the database. What is the Django thing I should be typing for to figure out what cohorts are in the database? I want to get all the cohorts in the database. Objects.all. Cohort.objects.all. And there's a query set that's returned with nothing inside of it. That makes sense because there should be nothing inside of it. So I'm going to highlight this first line, paste it in here, and I'm going to look at kilo platoon. All right, so whoa, object none. Okay, let's take a look. Did I save this inside the database? Did this work? All right. So I've got kilo platoon. I thought I created it because I did this over here, and it looks like it may exist. And then I did cohort.objects.all, and I got an empty set that came back. Why did this happen?
Because you didn't save the
I didn't save it. So I'm going to do kilo platoon dot save. And when I take a look at kilo platoon again, before it said object none, and now it's object one. That means it's actually saved inside the database. I can verify that by doing this, and now I have something within the database. So I've got kilo platoon, and now I want to create a bunch of students. It's got a cohort. I'm going to grab all this and just paste it in here, comment this out. I'm going to say Justin equals student, cohort equals kilo platoon. Gosh, oh no, this is terrible. Oh my gosh. Justin, let's, oh man. All right, something blew up. So I put in Justin here, and it said 500 got an unexpected keyword argument. Student got an unexpected keyword argument, which is in person.
Because you have it set as a Boolean, right?
I do have to set it as a Boolean, but I did say that it was true.
I think it's missing the parentheses in the model. If you go to model, go to model.py,
Models.py.
line 13.
Okay. just
Remigrate.
I might have to remigrate. Let's find out.
Can you break down like make migrations and migrate real quick?
Sure. Make migrations makes the file migrate actually. Next. Sorry. Okay, let's take a look at cohorts again. Cohorts.objects.all. Cohorts.objects.all. All right, so we got one cohort inside of there. Do we have any student.objects.all? No students. Okay, let's go back to Justin. Do this again. Leave work. Justin is not defined. Kilo platoon equals cohort.objects. Should I do all? I want to get just that one individual cohort in the database, but I don't know how.
Get it.
We know it's the first one, so kilo platoon object ID number 1. So same thing again. I'm going to create Justin. Justin doesn't exist inside of the database yet, but if I save Justin, I look again, Justin now exists. So if all goes well, I can go from Justin to Justin's cohort, and I can go from Kilo Platoon to its students. I can go from my cohort into my students. Any ideas?
Yeah, related name.
I have to do a related name. Talk to me about a little bit about related.
I think it's magical. Django, so.
All right. So you said related name. So what I'm trying to test is that I can go from one table to another and from the other table back to the original. So I saw that I have Justin, and I can go from Justin to Justin's cohort, but I can't go from Kilo Platoon to list out all the students. And you're saying that I need to add something called related name. Where does that go? And I'll explain a little bit about it, why it works.
Yeah, it goes line 9.
Goes right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add this called related name equals students. This related name allows me to go from one particular table to the other using this foreign key right over here. So what's going to happen is by saying related name students, it's saying whenever I call cohort.students, I'm going to find all of the student objects inside the database that have a cohort that belongs to the original. Again, unfortunately, I still have to run that migrations again. May manage.py, make migrations. And what you'll notice is no matter how many times I update the models.py, whenever there's something new that Django will automatically detect, it'll create an automatically new migration for me. And the good part about us blowing things up over and over and over again is that we have 3 different migrations. It runs the first one, then it runs the second one, then it runs the third one. If it ran out of order, this doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to run Python manage.py, migrate, to actually make some changes to the database. Python manage.py, go into the shell, load this all up again. I'm going to look Kilo Platoon set equals cohort.objects.get ID equals 1, and Justin equals student.objects.get equals 1. So I can go from Justin to his cohort, and from cohort, now I can do I can go from Kilo Platoon students to students, but it's just a relation inside the database. If I do the .all, then I So I can go from one area into another. Are there any questions as I've set this up so far? Okay, I'm going to, because this is going to drive me insane if I continuously type each person individually, there's got to be a better way, a more programmatic way to insert at least 3 more students inside the database.
Use the app.
What's that? I could use the admin, the built-in admin. Is there a less cheating way? All right, what I'm going to do, I was going to say like we could just do like students equals an array of objects, and then we just like first name, and then we like type that all out, and we can iterate and then create a bunch of students. And might as well do that. Or so we still need to type out everything.
Baker.
We could fake it. I'm just going to copy this. I'm going to copy paste. All of this is directly from your curriculum.
Ads.
All right, so I've got Bravo Platoon, got Charlie, got Scott, Plunkett, Michael Balls, Jim, Darnell, and Arthur. I'm going to grab these, and hopefully this won't blow up. Save 6 students. Oh, everything's broken because
You're missing.
I'm missing a whole bunch of stuff. All right, looks like we looks like we're gonna have to do this.
You
Let's
could use those and just add each of the.
yeah, I think
You could add like, because it's actually just the last 2 things. Is it? What's different?
all right, give me 1 second. I'm just gonna fly through this. All right, let's take a look. So let's do cohort.objects.all. Now we have 3 cohorts, which is nice. Let's do student.objects.all, and we have 3 students. Let's add 1 more for good measure. I'm gonna change. Who wants to be my guinea pig for today? Okay.
So this is on the
Yep.
Okay.
You are also good. All right. So let's recap what we did, and then we'll take a 5-ish minute break. So we created our project, our application. It's called Old Cohorts. A project can have many applications. So my first application is called Cohorts and Students. The first thing I did was I registered it inside of settings.py under installed apps. Then I created my models. I have my cohort, my student over here. We went through all of the Django columns. We migrated into the database. We made some changes, and then now we just populated the database. That's as far as we've got. After the break, when we come back at 8:50, we're going to create some URLs, some views, and some templates so that we can view this. So let's come back in 6 minutes.